It's very important to ask yourself that question if you're using an approach to dieting or fat loss that you can't see yourself sustaining for the rest of your life. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com. In today's video, I want to discuss metabolism, and specifically why I feel it is very common for people to have a poor performing metabolism. And the reason I like to discuss this is because I'm getting a lot of client requests, and I work with a lot of people who are in situations where their metabolism may be the actual issue that they're having so many problems. First, let's define a few terms. So what is metabolism? There's a lot of ways to define it, but I don't want to get too specific. For the purposes of this video, when I discuss metabolism, that's just going to be the rate at which your body burns calories. Now, someone who is said to have a good metabolism eats a lot of calories and maintains their weight. Someone who is said to have a bad metabolism would eat a very low amount of calories and maintain their weight, meaning if they went over that caloric intake, they would store body fat quickly. So the reason I want to do this video is because it's very common for people to get into a bad metabolic state because of things like fat loss diets or contest preps, and then not understand how to correct it, and most importantly, not have the patience to correct it, because it can be very difficult to see the truth and understand just what is needed to get you into a good position. And seeing the state of obesity and the people that struggle with, fat loss, keeping fat off. I mean, we hear about it all the time with celebrities who go through these dramatic transformations. We've seen the struggles on The Biggest Loser, and they're starting to get a little flack for their methods of fat loss. I'm not going to get into that. I just want to give a brief understanding, and I'm actually going to do like a visual representation on the board just so I can make my point a little bit more clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to represent on the board behind me in a graph where we start out. We're just going to start out with no one specific, but it's just going to be a representation of where someone would be if they had never gone through a diet before. Someone that has never tried to lose body fat, someone that has never done a quote-unquote calorie restriction in their life, and put them through this and see what would happen. And I'm going to show you the stages that people go through, and I think maybe it might clear some things up, and a lot of what I'm going to discuss might be argued in the scientific community that it's incorrect, but through working with thousands, well not thousands, but probably close to 1,000 clients over the last 5-6 years as a coach, attending a lot of the seminars that I go to, working with people like Lane and other people in the fitness industry, these are some things that we have learned to be true. So, I'm not really here to debate it. This is just my opinion on the topic of metabolism and why it may be a problem and how to go about correcting it. I want to do one thing right now and remove the term metabolic damage. I know that term gets thrown around a lot. It was a term that Lane Norton used in his video series a while back, and I don't actually believe the term damage applies. I think Lane agrees with me there. The term is meant to describe metabolic adaptation, but just wanted to take that term off the table. So let's go ahead. I'm going to zoom the camera in, try to get on the chart here so you guys can see it, and then I'll discuss it as I go, okay? Hold on. All right, guys, so on the board behind me, just to define this is going to be the metabolic rate in red, this is going to be body fat in green, and this is going to be caloric intake in blue. And I'm going to go through the lifespan of probably about a year, right? And I'm going to explain how things happen over that year. So this bottom line is going to be time. The top line here is going to be the metabolic rate, body fat, and calories, and what happens actually during a fat loss phase. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can see where I'm going with this stuff. So the first thing I want to discuss is what actually happens when this person, we'll call them person X decides that they want to lose some body fat, right? And the first thing that we do when we want to lose body fat is what? We reduce our caloric intake, or we increase our caloric expenditure, right? So what happens when we bring our calories down? Let's say we lower them to a number here, right? Well, shortly after we lower them, body fat will respond. In a healthy person, body fat will begin to come down as well, right? And at the same time, our metabolism begins to adapt. Now, why does the metabolism adapt? It's because survival. We need to survive. So if we don't need as many calories to survive, that's a good thing. Otherwise, we would all starve to death. So the metabolism begins to adapt at about the same time. So at this point, let's say the calories have been here for a while and body fat levels off. We're no longer losing body fat, right? We call this a sticking point. We call this a plateau, however you want to refer to it. Sorry if this is not zooming in properly. All right, but you see right there, that would be a sticking point. All right, so screw this thing. Back it up. All right, that's better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through what happens when we hit a sticking point. So with the green here, the body fat has come down because calories were adjusted initially. Then what happened is body fat came down, but now we've hit a sticking point. Metabolism adapts along the way as well. Now, when we reach a sticking point with calories, we hold them steady for a while, but to get body fat to lose, we have to lower them again. So we bring them down, right? We bring them down right here. I'm not going to go over like caloric adjustments and things like that. That's more specific. I just want to get straight into metabolism and what happens. So again, once we hit that point, body fat begins to drop again, right? And let's say we're either competing or doing a photo shoot or something like that. We're really driven to get really low on body fat. But again, it's going to stall. And how often it stalls, it just depends on the individual. You know, you can expect every 4 to 6 weeks for most people, but it may be every week for some people, and it may be, you know, may not be at all for months on end. You may be able to lose body fat. Now, during this time, the metabolic rate also continues to drop, right, as it adjusts to how many calories you're taking in. So when we hit another sticking point with calories, we've been here for a while now, what we do is got to keep going, so we got to drop those calories again, right? We drop those calories again, and here comes body fat coming off. You know, this is again a healthy person, so we can expect body fat to keep coming off before we level, right? And as we keep hitting lower and lower levels of body fat, your metabolism adapts. So metabolism is hanging on here, it keeps coming down. So let's just extrapolate this out. This trend is going to continue until we reach our goal body fat level. Let's just say it's right here. Let's just say this is shredded as you want to be, right? You reach your body fat level. We had to make a couple more adjustments to calories. We stalled, and then we got here. So this is where our calories are at now. So calories are down here now, which is good, because we also got our body fat where we wanted it, which was our goal. And anyone who's reached a goal body fat for what you would be like stage lean, you understand that it's just difficult to get there. Now, the other issue is the metabolism continues to come down. Now, all three are in line. This is still healthy. This is still metabolic adaptation, just doing its normal thing. A lot of people get concerned if they're taking in low calories, if it's a negative. No, it's not a negative as long as you understand it, and that's a necessity to get to this body fat level. Now, here's where we can get into trouble. We get into trouble when we reach that body fat level and our metabolic rate is pretty adapted to this, and then we bump up our calories because the show's over, the photo shoot's over, we binge because we're just so hungry, because you know when your body fat gets really low, a lot of things change. So what happens when we get a big spike in calories, right? Let's just say we get a big spike in calories and we bring it back down. Well, what happens is when body fat is very low, the body is very good at gaining body fat very quickly. So the body fat will spike up a little bit and it will settle in and maintain. The metabolism from depending on the length of the overeating session, you might get a little bump in it, but it's not going to come up nearly as much as body fat will. Now we see a pattern here. Now this person has this much body fat, and they're not real happy. So they go, I want to diet that body fat off. And then here we go, we have to bring our calories even lower than they were, right? Now they're down here. The metabolism is going to adapt. Come down here. Body fat may come off a little bit, but it gets very stubborn at this point. Body fat can become very stubborn once you've binge eaten. Anyone that knows after a show that the body fat that you put on in a quick manner does not respond the same as body fat did initially throughout your contest diet. So we get to here, but we never really get to that same level of body fat. And then we get frustrated, we have a bad day, and this time we have another big spike in calories. Maybe it lasts a day, maybe it lasts 3, whatever it is. Metabolism, again, not going to jump up much. You might get a little bump for the day or two, but the typical trend that we see with these type of people is that now body fat comes up to here, right? So body fat's here. This person is still determined to get back to that really lean body composition. So their calories are still pretty low, and now the metabolism's the lowest it's been throughout this entire process. So now you can see we're starting to have an imbalance. This is where body fat is now at this level. Calories and metabolic rate are now down here still. This is when you can get into a really bad cycle, guys. And over the life of your metabolism, what needs to happen when you have these overfeeding sessions and you put on a little bit of body fat, you need to allow yourself time for your metabolism to catch up. Ideally, what we do is we reverse diet, and how you reverse diet is completely individualized to who the person is. I don't want to get too specific with it because this is, again, about metabolism. So the question will be is, how long will it take to get your metabolism back to where it started? Well, the answer to that question is about the amount of time that it took you to get it down to here. So let's say this was over a 5-month window that your metabolism got to here, and over the next month you notice it's actually worse. Well, what we want to do is we want to start walking calories up, right? Walking calories up slowly. Here's your calories here now. So you start walking your calories up slowly, what happens is the metabolism will start to restore itself. Sorry, metabolism's red, losing track of my colors. But now you can kind of see the picture. So this is now basically a year long of this person. Now body fat is also going to come up, right? So this is part of the thing that we have to expect. Body fat was here. If we start adding calories, it might start climbing a little bit. But at some point, we want to get these 3 dots that represent metabolism, calories, and body fat back in a familiar setting. And this is why I don't recommend people compete every single year, because as you can see, if you diet down for 6 months and you spend the next 6 months restoring your metabolism and then only to diet again, that's going to give yourself a limited ability to improve. For people that have been competing for a long time, I don't have as much of a problem with it. But for young people, metabolism and building muscle and all these things need to be in the best possible position for months at a time. So hopefully you guys get a better big picture understanding of what's going on here, right? We want to keep our metabolism, body fat, and calories kind of in line with each other. And it's very possible if you're just patient. I think the biggest issue is once we get a little bit overweight, and I myself have been guilty of this, is that once you're a little bit overweight, you just want to do what you did before to get the fat to come off, but it doesn't work that way, as I've illustrated here. The biggest thing you need to do is have patience and understand that it's not going to happen overnight, and try to see the big picture. I know competitions and things like that and how we look are constantly staring us in the face, but if you have patience for your journey through fitness, through life, it's going to be much more rewarding. And hopefully this gives you guys some insight on what you can do to help with your metabolism, your metabolic rate. And if you guys are in situations like this, I'd love to hear comments below. I've worked with many clients who I've helped restore their metabolisms. I would say the most difficult client situation for me personally is someone who sees themselves as very overweight, but they're still maintaining that weight on a very low caloric intake because they won't let themselves eat more because they're afraid of gaining more weight. The issue becomes taking that person who can see themselves as overweight and convincing them that they need to eat more and do less cardio and allow their metabolic rate to increase prior to actually seeing some fat loss happen. And one thing I can say is it's very rewarding when that does happen, because I feel it's very empowering to give someone that ability back to get into a body composition that they can see as healthy, that they enjoy, that they feel like, they're doing all this work and they should be seeing a physique that they can respect. So hopefully you guys got something out of this. I tried to be concise. This is such a diverse topic. This is just a broad spectrum. I just wanted you guys to get the idea of what happens with these variables throughout the life of a dieting athlete. And you can take this to a general population person who is going through these fad diets, which typically are very low calorie, high activity scenarios that only repeat themselves. And now you might be able to understand why those don't work, and why, you might lose weight once or twice through the first times, but it's so easy to regain body fat because you didn't actually change your habits. You dieted for a weight or a goal, but you didn't change your lifestyle, because these fad diets, although effective for people that have never dieted before or have a healthy metabolism, they're not sustainable because they often use methods of fat loss that you can't see using for the rest of your life. So it's very important to ask yourself that question if you're using an approach to dieting or fat loss that you can't see yourself sustaining for the rest of your life. Are you going to be able to do what's proper when the diet is over to ensure that you don't end up in a situation worse than where you started? Anyway, guys, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it wasn't too cumbersome with me moving around with the camera, but I wanted to do some visual representation of some data, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'm Paul. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know below, and I appreciate all the subscribers, so please add me if you're interested in more content. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.